Now, yesterday we saw Martin Ainstein sit down with Cesc Fàbregas as he was talking about Lamine Yamal and how high his ceiling is. In the second part of the interview, he reflects on some of the big managers that have coached Fàbregas, including the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho and Arsene Wenger.
What would you say Arsene Wenger has given you in terms of his experience and his methodology?
I think Arsene was a gentleman, and obviously what I learned from him the most is the patience that you must have with the players. I know that nowadays patience doesn't exist because coaches are fragile, and we are too scared, that you lose 2 games and you're out, so you always try to compensate that by putting the most experienced players or the best players, or maybe not who deserves it the most, or maybe they go for the younger players. And I'm liking it a lot, working with the young players, and this requires patience as well, because there is ups and downs with a young player. You need to be a little bit more precise. You need to put a little bit more effort in the training sessions, more time.
From Pep?
Pep, I think tactically is the one that I learned the most. He always studied the opponent, informed me that the right manner. He always knew exactly what they could do, and he could give you the solutions, and this is what I try to bring to the table, for the players, especially nowadays. I think before there was a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
With the players. Now everything is a little bit more, they need you. Now the players, I feel they need you constantly before the game, prepare it, to always remind before the game. When I mean before the game, I mean the days before, then a little reminder also the day of the game just before we go out.
Right before.
Before, and also during the game, depending if they're 5-4-1 or then they change to a 4-3-3, they always need, help to identify what's happening onto the pitch. And I think Pep, helped me a lot in this way to understand different things.
Jose?
Jose, what I like the most about him is how he handles the dressing room. How he plays with the head, of the players, how he knows how to identify who is in the right mental predisposition to achieve the team, whatever they need in that moment. He understands when a player in that moment is weak, so he gives him a little bit more time. So he's very fast, at understanding the player, what they need at each moment, and who can give them what he needs, in order to win games. He's not scared to make changes. I remember sometimes he would make 3 changes at halftime because he knows that exactly in his head how he wants to achieve, different things on the second half. And in this case, I think Jose was very, very brave, and he always used to tell me, go with your idea. Once you identify a problem, fix it like immediately. Don't let it pass.
Great stuff there from Cesc Fàbregas chatting to Martin Ainstein. Jan's still with us. Stevie, what intrigues me about some of these players who have played under such great managers, you look at that, he was at Chelsea in his prime, Barcelona, Arsenal, is that you're surrounded by brilliant players as well. So now, for example, Cesc Fàbregas, obviously promoted last season, now in Serie A. How difficult is it to try and bring the strategies from those, say, 3 great managers and adapt them to a team that maybe doesn't have the same sort of quality that he was used to playing alongside?
Well, it really shouldn't be that difficult, because at the end of the day, as a coach, you need to figure out what your players are. Where are they mentally? Where are they in ability-wise? Where do they fit in the team? These are all things that, regardless of what level you're at, that you do. And as far as the dressing room's concerned, he's talking about Mourinho looking after the dressing room.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that the people you put in the dressing room are not going to mess up the dressing room. And you also want to make sure you pick the right type of people, because you want to stay out the dressing room. You don't want to be going in and out and try to sort it out for them. It's better if you get a little group of players, a core, that actually runs the dressing room for you. And after that, it's your job to get rid of the ones that might mess it up. Because at the end of the day, unless you've got a Messi or somebody like that in your team, you've got to look after the team. Not just one guy or the two guys who are your best players. It's all about the team, because you win as a team, and if you put too many bad eggs in it, you're going to lose. It smells.
It's a pity he didn't play under Ruud Gullit.
Oh.
He could have learned what it was like to sod off to Heathrow Airport and fly back to Amsterdam when the players are trying to talk to him and have a chat with
You
him.
played under Gullit and obviously Hoddle as well. Two great players. Was there frustration from them that you weren't doing as they wanted because the level wasn't?
Well, I also played under Wim Jansen, who was in the great Dutch side with Johan Cruyff. And I think and I don't want to talk ill of Glenn, but Glenn was a very fledgling manager. He had spent a bit of time at Swindon as player manager before he was offered the Chelsea job. Then soon after he was offered the England job. But I think as a pretty new to it manager at Chelsea, he did get frustrated that most players didn't have the passing range that he had. And there was nobody in that Chelsea midfield. Nobody. Not Newton, not Wise, not Peacock, not myself. Nobody. Nobody could pass the ball like he could pass it. So he did get slightly frustrated. The whole thing was, I jest about it, but it was a completely different scenario of just how not to manage a dressing room, and he found that out at Newcastle. But no, you know, Jansen never got frustrated because he knew it was about managing players.
Right.
He would just, for example, one thing I learned from him was he would drop little, he would say very little, but he would drop something in front of you just before you were going out. You'd been for the warm-up, you're back in, you're ready to go, you're just about to go in the tunnel, and he might drop a little bombshell in front of you, a little grenade.
What sort of thing would he say?
Well, for example, I scored a lot of goals when I was at Celtic, and I had a little bit of a patch during the season where I went, 3 or 4 games without scoring, and unbeknown to me, in his mind, I was making too many runs into the box. And he just said to me before the game, one game was a big, I think it might have been a Rangers game, it was a big game, and he said, not too many runs, time your runs, and he walked off. And I went on the field thinking, don't just go willy-nilly. Yeah. I went on the field thinking, only go when the time's right. And it's little things like that. He wasn't shouting at me for an hour before the game and telling me, he just dropped it in. And I went out on the field with that in my mind thinking, I've been just bombing in there at every chance, and I'm just going to make sure that I pick my moment.
But see, you can do that with a proper player.
Right.
He knows that's all he has to do with Craig, and he'll do it. Whereas players of lesser ability and a lesser mentality, you have to spend the week leading up, and then you have to reiterate it.
Right.
And you have to, you really got to lean on it and keep banging it home so they don't forget about it. So, again, little nuggets like that, but you can only do that with a player that actually has the ability and the mental football brain to do that.
Football brain.
Well, it is. It's a football brain.
Yeah, what was interesting, this whole Cesc Fàbregas journey, is that he said that he took this job because he knew he'd be given more time than, say, he walked into a bigger job, which probably because of his name and because of his resume he could get, because he wants time to be able to build a team and not after 3 or 4 matches already being judged.
Yeah, and we talked about Gerrard and Lampard before. Maybe they took a too quick way of them. I think that the main thing for any star player, especially a star player, is that you find, even if you have an Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola as your coaches, just let it be. Just let the player build up the credibility to you, Fabregas, as the coach, and just know that he's been influenced by that. But because you have those kind of players or coaches that will say, I used to do this, I used to do that, or that manager did this and this manager did that. I think that Fabregas will find his own way. He's a humble man. I had my son was over there, did an interview with him, a portrait of him. Marcus is starting on his career as doing those kind of things, and he treated him as the best man in the world. And small things like that, you find your way. You are humble. You started at Como, as you're saying, Dan. You know that you will take the time. By the way, he has built himself in the hierarchy of Como as well, and he started off there, getting the promotion, getting into some games now. He finds his way because even if you're a big football player, even if you are a football star, even if you're influenced by the biggest coaches in the world, you have to find your own way. You have to find your own philosophy. Copies have never been a success in football.